All right, well, we're here in the Chief's office of the Ellsworth Police Department. Chris Popper, joined by Chief Coleman. And this is the first of a series that we're going to be doing today. It's Conversations with a Chief. And we're going to kind of morph it into Conversations with a Cop and some of the new people that you've got on board here at the Ellsworth Police Department. So you've been here now 6 months, starting back in October.
That's right.
Give us your impressions of the Ellsworth Police Department and policing coming from the Maine State Police. It's a lot different.
It is a lot different. What I did before was very widespread. I had 11 counties throughout the state, and I commanded a unit of 22 detectives that did major crimes. So now I'm in one town. It's a large town, a large community, but it's different geographically.
And luckily you haven't had any major crimes.
No, that's right. We've had, it's a busy little place, but it's just nice to know when I go home at night, if I get called out, I know where I'm going. It's in my former life, it could have been anywhere from Aroostook County to the Maine State Prison from my home in Surrey. So I never really felt like my time was my own. Here, since I took over, it's been a lot different that way. The community in Ellsworth has been extremely supportive of both me and the department. Nothing but good feeling and support. So it's been a great change for me. Not to say it's been without issues. I have to learn how to be a police chief as opposed to a state police lieutenant. So it's been a transition for me and I think the department. We've got 16 members full-time plus 4 dispatchers and 1 part-time officer, and we're getting to know each other, and it's really a good place to work. So.
16 police officers is not a lot when you consider that you're all of Ellsworth. You've got 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the community changes a lot. I mean, you go from not a sleepy community, because that's certainly not what you want to describe it as, but for 5 months when the coastal, when summer's here, there are all sorts of issues that come into Ellsworth as people head to the coast.
Right. I think part of my job since I took over is to try to learn the community's needs and how to police those needs and what the department needs to meet those needs. And what I've discovered, partly when I did my preparation for the interview process, I learned that Ellsworth is made up of 7,800 full-time residents. But in the daytime, even this time of year, there's upwards to 60,000 people in the urban core, either working, shopping, or frequenting some business. So the challenges of policing a standard population of 7,800 and all their needs, which swells to 60,000 during the daytime, is immense.
Yeah.
Then if you throw in the factor of where we are in relation to our harbor in the summer months, we all know what happens here in the summer. It does put a strain on the resources of this department. So the schedule reflects that, the work schedule, the work environment. For officer safety reasons, the city's made a commitment to try to keep 2 officers on around the clock. So during the midnight shift, you have 2 people on.
That's not a lot when when you've got, and yes, there's the Hancock County that's able to help out. State police for this area could be anywhere.
Right.
I mean, you've got to have at a minimum 2 police officers on.
Well, I think a lot of complaints like domestic violence, for instance, when we get a domestic violence call by policy, and it's really the best practice amongst the police profession, is you try to send 2 people.
Oh yeah.
It takes a minimum of 2 to handle that type of call properly.
Well, 2 can turn on to 1 real easy.
Right. But in the early morning hours, the state police and the sheriff's department generally aren't out. So the Ellsworth police have to rely on each other to handle it and to keep everybody safe. It's not just for the officer safety, it's for the safety of the public. So that's a challenge to staff that type of schedule with the 16 members. And it does become an issue at times when somebody's sick or those sorts of things. So, every PD has its challenges, and because of how big we are geographically and the influx of the tourist population and the daily traffic, those are Ellsworth's unique challenges, I think.
I mean, traffic in Ellsworth,
Right.
I mean, God, it's tough to get around at times.
It is, you know, High Street is what it is,
Yeah.
and it's both a positive and a negative. So it's just, I'm at the stage where I'm trying to learn all those things about the city and how to best police them.
You're going through the budget process, and I mean, we were just talking. Everybody wants their taxes to at worst to stay level, but everybody wants services to increase, and that's a tough thing to try and balance.
Well, my job in that whole process, and you're right, this is my first time around in the state police. I didn't have to submit the budget for my unit. That was done by somebody else. So I've had to learn the process itself, but what I really liked about it is that it forces me or any other department head to look at their needs in relation to the next 2 or 3 years and try to plan accordingly. So my role is to advocate for my department. The overall tax rate and all that stuff is left to the city manager and the city council to determine, and I'm sure they have a process to try to figure out what priorities they feel are more important from all the department heads. So, but for me, it's been a good process to try to first figure out what we're trying to accomplish and what we need to accomplish those things.
A little bit difficult for you in that you were hired by Michelle Beale, and then all of a sudden she left.
Well, she did, yeah. Yeah.
And now there's a new city manager coming through.
Well, yeah, when I was hired, Michelle was here, and she really had no intention of leaving at that point. So I was very comfortable with that arrangement, but the city's done a great job finding the interim city manager we have. We really haven't skipped a beat. The department heads all work well together. It's really a change for me because in the state level, the state government's so big, you don't get to see the inner workings. Here at City Hall, every department head interacts with each other on a daily basis, so it's really well run and well organized.
And you probably have to go to the council meetings.
Yeah, I try to go to the council meetings when I can, and you know, usually I have something on the agenda. There's all kinds of different committees in town, and I've tried to become very active in the community as much as my schedule allows. So it's been a good experience.
Well, we saw you running in the color run last weekend as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the challenges I mean, we talked about it in terms of the swelling of the population. What are some of the other issues facing Ellsworth? I mean, obviously, the drugs, I mean, we spoke with Pete Arno the other day. Drugs are a major part of, especially it seems like the state of Maine, and with the influx coming in from out of state.
Yeah, I think we'll start with understanding that we have 16 people here, plus the dispatcher. So you have 20 people that are entrusted with trying to keep the community safe. And it's a high level, I mean, that's a high ideal. But if you think about it in those terms, then you look at what types of crime are most impacting their safety. And I would agree 100% that drugs are a huge issue that need to be addressed. Because of where Ellsworth is, there are hotels in town. There's a lot of that type of activity coming up from different places that may not be conducted by Ellsworth residents, but it occurs here. And then Ellsworth is not unlike any other town. We have a drug problem. From a law enforcement standpoint, I feel it's more effective to try to address the drug problem through vigorous enforcement of drug crime, because a lot of those users and dealers commit other crimes in support of their habit. So by taking them off the streets for drugs, and I know you're not going to solve the issue 100%, all I'm trying to accomplish is that when they're looking at a place to contract business, I want them to think Ellsworth is not a place to do it. I don't pretend to feel we're going to eradicate drugs, but I want the citizens of Ellsworth to feel that this is a safe community. I think you do that by an overt posture of going after those types of crimes and making sure your quality and all the other crimes and the way you investigate those crimes is top-notch. And I was very pleased. I got the Uniform Crime Reports recently. The Uniform Crime Report is something that the FBI has developed, and participating agencies from across the nation submit data to the UCR or to the FBI, and it's a way we can kind of compare our service level against other agencies. And the statewide average for what they call Part 1 crimes, which are your more serious offenses, is about 32.2 5%, let's say. So that means about a third of those types of cases are solved and cleared. And there's some criteria you can use to try to understand how to clear them, but it's basically an arrest or you've solved the issue. Ellsworth last year had about a 63%
clearance rate. That's fantastic.
So it's really, really good, and it's a tribute to the culture of good work that's been here for a long time, and it's something they should be proud of. So I want to continue that.
Yeah, community policing seems to be a buzzword. One of the things that I took part in last year was the any given day, the program, and I don't have the right name for it all of a sudden.
Every 15 minutes.
Every 15 minutes, which was just it's such an impactful program, and to do that at the high school right before prom was just, and that took a tremendous amount of effort from not only the Ellsworth Police Department, the fire department, the sheriff's department, but there seems to be a desire for community policing. I know Rick Roberts is on the softball team. You see Dottie Small everywhere. I mean, that's part of a good policing, I think.
I agree 100%, and I think communities get the police department they want. And when I was hired, one of the things that the hiring committee insisted upon is that as a chief, I am in the community. I'm involved, so I can set the standard and I can set the example for the guys in the department. And they really, that's what attracted me to the job. I really wanted to be involved in a community such as Ellsworth. But you're right. I think one of the things that you're seeing at a national level is that there's mistrust between the communities and the police that provide service to them. One of the ways you maintain that trust, I believe, is you're part of it. You don't separate yourself from the community. You're part of it. Right. And I do believe that society needs role models, good role models, and police officers can serve as role models for some young people. So I see it as a crucial part of our mission. As a chief, I want people to feel they can approach me, they can talk to me, whether they see me in a store or if they see me walking down the street. Because if they can approach me, that means they can trust me. Right. And if they can trust the chief, there are going to be issues. But if they can trust us enough to know we're going to deal with them when they happen, I think that's how you maintain trust long term. It's a pretty simple concept. I think what happens over time sometimes in our profession is we have a tendency to get really busy and really focused on what we're doing. And at some point, if you're not careful, you become unapproachable. And citizens see nothing more than a traffic stop or a car driving to a complaint. And you really have to fight that. You have to find that ability to stay connected with the citizens, I think.
There's not, one of the things I've been impressed with, and although maybe a little bit more last year, there's not a lot of turnover in the police department.
Well, I think that's a cyclical thing. Yeah. It's going to ebb and flow. We just lost Kelvin Moat, who's found a great job with the Department of Defense. So we may go through a cycle in the next 2 or 3 years where there's just normal turnover. Right. Hiring new people is what I think is the most critical job I can do, and I have to be really focused on what I'm looking for. And I just had a gentleman in here this morning, our intern, who's interested in becoming a full-time officer, and he asked me, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "I want somebody that is in this profession for the right reasons."
What are the right reasons?
You want to serve the public. You want to make a difference. You want to be somebody at the end of the day that you can look back and say, "I've made a difference. I've made my society better," which is pretty highbrow if you think about it. But I don't want somebody that's looking at so much. I don't want their focus to be health, benefits, and pay. Because at times, this is a thankless job. Yeah. Generally, people don't want you around until they need you, and then you're never there quick enough. So you have to have somebody that wants to serve the public and knows that their focus needs to be on trying to make things better. And if you keep your focus on that, the job is very rewarding. If you're looking at pay and benefits, this is not the place to be. It's not the place to be. And it's a simple concept. And like I told the gentleman this morning, I said, you're going to have to take an oath of office to become a policeman. We put ourselves on pedestals, we judge other people. So the oath consists of a pledge to keep your personal life beyond reproach. In your professional life, you do things morally and ethically, you keep yourself in shape, and you do the right thing at all times.
That's tough.
It is, but there's a reason for it. If more people would take that oath seriously, we probably wouldn't have the issues we're having in the United States right now. So I see those things as the most important thing that I can look for. I went to Husson College last week to recruit. I was talking to a group of students. The same thing came up, and I said, I can train you how to be a policeman, but I can't train your character or your ethics. Either you have them or you don't. And I'd rather have somebody who has good character, good work ethic, and a moral center with no knowledge of law, and I can take that person, I can make him a good policeman. Right. I can take the smartest person in college who has no ethics. They're not going to make it out here.
Yeah. When I ran hotels, when I was always hiring people, I said, look, I can teach you how to run a hotel. I can teach you how to work a hotel.
Right.
I can't teach you to be pleasant.
Right.
If you're not pleasant, if you're not hospitable, I can't work with you.
Right. Exactly.
If you could, all of a sudden you had as much money as you wanted, you could do anything you want. What's the one thing you'd do tomorrow?
I would get a new facility. Ellsworth City Hall is a great city hall, but it's not the best police department. We have 20 people working in about 1,500 square feet, and there are things that we should be doing that we just can't because of the facility. We're making some modifications, like the need for an interview room, which you might have heard about at the city council meeting. We're having a small renovation project so that the officers have a place to interview a person. It's like a carpenter being a carpenter without a hammer. We talk to people. The setting of those interviews need to be such that somebody can feel comfortable. There's privacy, and there's a whole bunch of other things that play into interviewing. That the setting is extremely important. There are other things, the evidence processing area that we don't have here. There are a lot of things that I would, if I had all kinds of money in the world, I would build a new public safety building. But having said that, I'm a realist. You got to have the mindset that you're going to make the best of what you have. And that's what we're trying to do here. And I'm grateful for the space that we have, and I'm grateful for the officers that we have. It's just, you asked me the question, if I was king for a day, what would I do? And I would have a bigger facility.
What, obviously a police department is successful when the community works with them. Here's your chance. Talk to the camera, talk to the Ellsworth community. Tell them what you need in terms of cooperation, and the camera's yours. You know,
I got to say, I see it every day. Our Facebook page, for one, social media presence. I think our profession has been somewhat resistant to using social media, but I see it as community policing. It's no different than an officer 20 years ago walking into the coffee shop and talking to the irregulars in the morning to see what's going on. It's a way we can communicate, in this case, with 12 or 13,000 people on a daily basis that monitor our page. So the detective here can put up a picture of somebody that we're trying to identify, and within 15 seconds she's getting interaction back. So I think that involvement needs to continue, and I would ask them if they have a concern or compelling problem that they feel that they can call us. If there's an officer out there that did something that they don't agree with, call the chief and we'll deal with it. If there's a concern about parking, or don't think it's too minor, we're here to help solve those issues. Now, we can't fix everything, but we certainly want to hear them.
Little concerns solved early don't become bigger concerns.
Right. I think there's a tendency sometimes, well, I don't want to bother the police. But sometimes your observations or what you're dealing with may be connected with some other things that you don't know about. So it might be that missing piece that we're looking for. And certainly if there's suspicious activity around, we want to solve crime. We want to make sure that Ellsworth is the safest community it possibly can be. So if you see something, pick up the phone or text us, or there's all kinds of ways you can contact us.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. So the telephone number to call non-emergency
is 667-2133.
And you've got a tip line.
We do have a tip line.
which I know I put you on the spot.
Yeah.
So we'll put that information
Okay.
on there as well.
Yeah.
But again, people can, and the Facebook page is good, but it's not how you report crime. Because as much as everybody thinks and hopes that it's monitored 24 hours a day, it's not.
No.
And you know, if you see something, it's that old New York City say something mentality, and that's going to help solve the issue.
Call that 667 number, 2133.
If it's an emergency, obviously dial 911.
911. Yep. We also have a Twitter account, and if you contact us, we can get you in touch with Twitter, so you can actually follow us on Twitter. And we put things like immediate needs, like Oak Street is blocked to an accident, or there's a fire on Birch Avenue. Those types of things that are going on our Twitter feeds to help notify the public of those immediate concerns. So
it's a good thing to do is to follow the Ellsworth Police Department on Facebook. Because you want to get up like Bangor and have all those, you need like the Duck of Justice or something down here.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. You know.
You'll have to figure out what the Ellsworth DACA will be.
Maybe that's something your viewers can write in on.
The Eagle of Justice. I don't know. All right. Anything else you want to add?
No, I just want to thank you for coming in and taking your time, and I think this is a good idea, and we'll try to continue it.
Yeah, we will. So this is our first conversation with the chief. We're going to move on, and we'll do some conversations with Ellsworth cops, because we got to make that C alliteration work somehow. All right. Thanks for watching this video. We want to, again, and we're doing this right before Memorial Day. When you're out driving about, make sure you wear your seatbelt. Don't text and drive. And obey the speed limit, because there are going to be lots of people out and about this weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can always take extra time to get where you're going, and nothing's worth getting in an accident over.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, with all the tourists here, you've got to make sure that, you know, that half-hour drive is now all of a sudden 45 minutes, and just allow that extra time.
Usually, you mentioned seatbelts, and we just had an officer this morning go out at 7 o'clock in the morning, and by 11 o'clock he'd had 7 motorists cited for no seatbelts right here in Ellsworth. So wear your seatbelt, it saves lives, and put those phones down.
I'll do it. I'll promise.
All right.
I hope. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this video. Make sure you check out all the other videos we have on the WDEA YouTube channel. Well, we're here with Sergeant Glenn Mosier. I'm Chris Popper from WDEA, and we've taken over the chief's office.
We have. Hopefully he won't mind.
Yeah, it's all right. He's not here. So, you know, you leave, and this all goes to the fact in our last conversation with the chief that he said he needed a bigger work area and an interview room. So this proof is in the pudding right here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, so we're continuing our conversation with a cop with the Ellsworth Police Department, and Glenn, one of your roles is, I guess, I know that you work closely with Ellsworth High School in terms of the every 15-minute, production. I mean, it really is a huge production, and that alternates every other year, and this year being an off year, but. The work that the Ellsworth Police Department does in terms of trying to minimize people who are abusing alcohol, whether they're underage or driving while under the influence, is ongoing.
That's correct. Yeah, we have a great partnership with both the Bureau of Highway Safety, Maine Bureau of Highway Safety, as well as the Healthy Acadia. And Healthy Acadia has been instrumental in providing money for us to do extra details and go out and enforce underage drinking laws. They've also provided us with the opportunity to have officers go into the schools and do educational-based programs. And so we've been able to keep up the the pressure that we apply through those enforcement efforts to combat underage drinking and the dangers that are affiliated with underage drinking, the drunk driving, the alcohol poisoning type of events, and risky behavior that teens engage in when they've consumed alcohol. And with graduation coming up, and we just got through the prom season, thankfully we got through without any significant events, tragic events, and we have graduations coming up throughout the county. And of course our enforcement efforts will be here in Ellsworth for the Ellsworth Police Department, but many of us are also members of a countywide task force through funding through Healthy Acadia, which will be involved in those enforcements throughout the county as well as in Ellsworth.
All right, let's talk about graduation first. The best thing that everyone can do is to take part in project graduation.
Oh, absolutely. We certainly encourage and love to see the kids participate in the project graduation, which is obviously alcohol-free. But it's very important. That whole weekend is there's a lot of celebrations. It's a time for celebration for a lot of families in the area, and it's important for us to get the word out to parents that may be contemplating furnishing some sort of party, hosting a party where alcohol is involved, that's illegal, and to make sure that that they understand the ramifications that they can face for that type of event, for hosting that type of event. So we try to get that word out to the folks and to the citizens of Ellsworth and Hancock County alike. We also want to make sure that the whole weekend is and getting on into the summer season, that it's safe, and that the kids know that we're out there in force, and we're trying to prevent them from access to alcohol through monitoring the stores that retail it, as well as trying to locate when there are party events going on and breaking those type of things up. Our primary goal obviously is to stop it before it happens, but occasionally we get there after the fact, and we have to deal with the consequences. And so yeah, we definitely we have a lot of good activities planned, and a lot of money that's available to us for that specific enforcement.
If you're under 21, you blow .01, you're guilty of operating under the influence.
That's correct. There's a zero tolerance for anyone under 21. And I actually, in preparation for our discussion here, I did a little research and got some national statistics on underage drinking, on OUI, operating under the influence. Yeah. And just quickly from NHTSA, which is a national database, in 2013, 10,076 people were killed in alcohol-impaired crashes throughout the entire country. And out of those 10,000 people, roughly 50% were operators that were above a .08 involved in those fatal crashes were between the ages of 16 and 24.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty staggering number to think that 50% of the 10,000 fatal crashes involving alcohol fell into this age bracket of people between the ages of 16 and 24, and and that's something that we take very serious as far as the underage component, but also just in general as far as all alcohol related vehicle operating.
It always seems that in the early summer months, we read about the underage task force making a couple busts. Mm-hmm. I think probably you and I are a little bit different. I understand the difficulty it is trying to wait to be probably 21 and drink. Mm-hmm. When it changed, the law changed when thankfully, I guess, when I was 18, I was able to drink, and I think it changed back in, I think it was 78 or so, and then I was grandfathered to be 20, so I didn't have to wait till I was 21. The worst thing you can do, though, is if the underage task force comes, is to run.
Yeah.
I mean, but we see that happening, and that's probably the first thing to do. People think is, oh my gosh, if I flee, they're not going to find me.
Right.
Listen, when you guys go in to stop a party like that, there's more than one police officer.
Oh, absolutely.
There's generally 4 to 6 police officers, plus cruisers, And look, this is a small community. Everybody knows who's there. You guys,
Typically.
I mean, you guys are in the schools. You know, I mean, this isn't like Boston where we don't know who's involved. You know who's involved, and all that happens when you run is you're gonna rack up charges.
Typically, you know, we very seldom have people that, you know, run and get away. Of course, here in Ellsworth, we have the luxury of having a K9 unit available, which can track individuals. You know, but the important thing about the running aspect, even more so than
They don't want you to get into a car, for God's sake.
Right, is the concept that it continues the idea that they involve in this, you know, risky behavior due to the alcohol impairment. And you know, when you're running off through the woods, heaven forbid, you know, in a situation where you're at a lake, or, you know, there's unknown dangers, you know, out there in the woods, and it's dark, and you're not prepared, certainly, you know, and again, you know, bad things can happen for something that, you know, you shouldn't have been doing in the first place.
It's relatively minor, but it's gonna escalate quickly.
It could. It could be. It could something that's, you know, something that, yeah, is. Are you going to get in trouble? Absolutely.
Yes.
Are there going to be ramifications? You know, without question. But the safety factor is, you know, is important that they try to. And again, the impairment will impact that, but keep in mind that, you know, their safety is more important than getting away, you know, trying to get away, because the likelihood is that it's not going to happen. Right.
Well, and I guess people are going to watch this. Hopefully you're not drinking while you're watching this, but I mean, what's a relatively minor offense, when you start going resisting arrest or getting behind the wheel and you've had alcohol, it just multiplies.
Absolutely. For example, for a person who's 18 to 20, alcohol offense, if you're caught under the influence or you're caught with alcohol, it's a civil infraction. So it's no jail time. You go to court, you get a fine, you get assessed a fine. For a juvenile, it's a little bit more serious because it is actually a crime for those individuals. Not likely to see jail time, obviously, but you know, but it is something that would be on a criminal record for a juvenile. But again, you know, you're looking at a fine.
Right.
So, you know, is it worth, you know, risking your life, or certainly taking it beyond the, you know, to the next step where you get into a car, you know, and operate a motor vehicle, and then you're dealing with something that's a lot more serious. It's a crime for everybody involved, and then, you know, the risk factor is far too great to take that risk.
You've got some grants to run some OUI details.
We do.
And, you know, I mean, we've seen some police departments that announce when they're going to do it. You typically don't do that.
Well,
do you?
We do to an extent. When we do safety checkpoints, we will put information out either through, you know, web-based type of information, social media, and generally we will announce in the newspaper that, you know, that we have this grant funding and that we are planning, you know, roadblocks or safety checkpoints throughout the course of the summer. We typically won't go in and until, you know, the day or a couple days prior to give specific locations of where we're going to be doing safety checkpoints, and that's not really, it's typically not, it's never in an effort to trick anybody or to fool anybody or surprise anybody. It's merely just a matter of, we don't typically know until the day of, or, you know, hours before. You've got enough
police officers that are available,
where and when it's going to happen. Exactly. Yeah. We, you know, staffing issues are always a concern for all law enforcement in this area, and, you know, we don't typically know until the morning that it's going to take place of, you know, where and when we're going to actually be doing a safety checkpoint. But we try to coordinate them with things like, holidays. Holidays are important to us. Events like graduation and other things. Concerts in Bangor have been a motivator for us. We've had we've seen an influx in people driving back down the the 1A corridor from the concerts that have been that are impaired. And
Yeah,
been
the
drinking.
country concerts, and I will tell you, because I generally have to go represent the radio station at the concerts. They're great people watching, and exactly. If you're going to go to a concert and you're going to have too much to drink, for God's sake, stay in Bangor.
Absolutely.
Don't drive home.
Get a designated driver, because we know when the concerts are. We target the specific concerts that are more likely than not to
The country
have
concerts,
the alcohol.
exactly.
And you're very likely over the course of the summer to run into a roadblock, and it could be as far out as the McGowan's Hill area on Route 1A, or it could be right here on High Street, depending on the manpower that we have available to us. And I know that we're not the only agency in the area. I know the state police, Troop J, have funding, and they're also aware of those type of events and plan their safety checkpoints around those things.
And again, when you do these, the whole idea is not to nab people. I mean, and it's more of a look. We want you to be aware we're out here doing our job, and you as the public have the responsibility to drive properly, to not drink and drive, to make sure you're wearing your seatbelt, not to text and drive. I mean, it's a two-way street, and it's not just the police officers here looking to nab people.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes back to the statistic that I gave earlier. 10,076 people were killed in alcohol-related motor vehicle accidents, and I think the safety checkpoints, they think they serve as a deterrent, and which is part of the reason why we do make them public and let people know that we're going to be out there and the grant, and notifying people that, hey, we have all this grant money and we are stepping up enforcement. Hopefully acts as a deterrent and encourages people to use designated drivers. But yeah, I mean, we absolutely. I mean, if we could prevent someone from getting behind the wheel, it's much more favorable than arresting somebody who's been behind the wheel.
I had never seen or any of the every 15 minutes videos or the program up until last year when I was able to take part in it. It is probably the most powerful thing that you can see, you can watch. I mean, to have these high school seniors, for the most part, be taken out by the Grim Reaper and have them read the death notification to the class. At the same time, police officers are going out and notifying the parents that their child has died, and then they're taken away, and the child actually writes a letter to the parent that night. And I mean, to see, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, to see that when everybody is reunited the following day, even though everybody knows it's just pretend.
Yeah.
I mean, people are crying, parents are crying, kids are crying. It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, one of the hardest things you have to do is probably, for real, go out and notify someone that a parent that their child's passed away for whatever reason. Oh, absolutely. And there aren't too many people in law enforcement that haven't had, unfortunately haven't had to make that announcement to a parent. And as a parent myself, that's something that thankfully my kids are a few years away from driving, but that's something that that I certainly hope I never have to experience on the other end, but I have done it. As a parent, I will tell you that the worst thing that can ever happen is for the phone to ring between midnight and 4 in the morning. There's anything that ever good comes out when the phone rings between midnight and 4 in the morning. Absolutely. And and I think
you spoke to the sort of the reality of that program, and I have been on the real end of making those death notifications, and I'll tell you, it's no easier in real life than it is with that program, because that program has that level of validity to it,
right.
and that level of realism that when the parents arrive on the scene at the high school to identify their son or daughter.
Oh my God, the wailing that happened last year, that wasn't acting.
Absolutely
that was,
not. It's legitimate.
I mean, to see your child covered in glass, covered in fake blood, but it looks as realistic, and to see them in a body bag, I mean, my Lord, that's just, I mean, it's going to take years off your life.
Yeah, I think, and there's a lot of preparation done with the families and with the parents prior to the program, but there's no level of preparation that you could do that's going to prepare you for what emotion you're going to have, because no matter how many times, and I've talked to many of the parents who've been involved, no matter how many times they've said to themselves, it's fake, it's just fake, it's just fake. When your child is laying there, you can't help but be overcome with that, knowledge that this could really happen.
Yeah.
And and it does happen all too often, and those emotions are real, and there's no way for them to control themselves, and it is a very powerful program, and it's something that I've certainly enjoyed being a part of, and being able to provide for our students. And the one thing that the way we look at the program is, if one student, if even just one student is influenced by it, and makes the decision not to get in a vehicle with someone that's been drinking, or not to drive themselves when they've been drinking, then all the preparation and all the meetings and all the scheduling and everything that goes into putting it on is well worth it.
I mean, it's a tremendous amount of effort. Both, I mean, you've got people that are, all the law enforcement are donating their time. You've got vehicles that are donated to simulate the crash, and I mean, the fire department comes out and they excuse me, extricate the people, the students, from the cars, so that the vehicles are destroyed. The funeral, the undertakers are coming in, the funeral arrangers,
and they donate, all of their time and their facilities and their, the caskets and all of that is all donated on their part. County ambulance is involved, which is all donated time. The court system's involved, and
right.
The jail's involved. So and of course we. All the students that are involved are taken away. It's
really a whole day of class that they miss, because, as you said, they're taken out and then it's involved, and then once it's over, they're removed and overnight somewhere.
Yeah, overnight, and then they don't have any electronics, and they can't communicate with anybody. And then it's not till the next day that they're for the funeral the next day. And actually until after the funeral, where they're allowed to communicate and reunite with their families and friends. And yeah, so it is a huge undertaking. It takes a lot of volunteer hours, a lot of cooperation from a lot of different agencies. But and all of that is true. But ultimately the program couldn't exist, and although it's an Ellsworth Police sponsored program, it could never exist without the high school and the support that they give to the program and the effort that they put into the program. Hope High and Bev Homage are the two guidance counselors at the high school, and really without them the program would never come to fruition, because we can do so much, but they're there every day, and
right.
they're the ones that they're the ones who are pulling the kids in and getting the permission slips and getting the parents, and just without their efforts the program would never go off, because they're very extremely instrumental in making it happen.
Yeah. We'll put the video of every 15 minutes that was done last year below this video, so that way people can see that. And the HCTC video department
did
an amazing
great
job.
Absolutely.
An amazing job in producing the video. the camera's yours. I mean, obviously we don't want people to drink and drive. We want you, if you're under 21, not to drink.
Absolutely.
What do you want to say?
Well, I think that I think those are all extremely important points. We also, we're right now we're getting into the summer months, and speed, speed also kills, and that's a big problem on our roadways, and something that we also have grant money to combat. And there's going to be a lot of activity in the 1A corridor and some of the high traffic areas in town, trying to slow people down. So that's something to look out for and pay attention to. And just another thing that I wanted to touch base on real briefly, which we don't have any current actual enforcement activity going on, but it certainly impacts our young people, and that's the whole concept of distracted driving. And I have some more stats involving that I just wanted to kind of bring up real quickly. And that in 2013, and these are nationwide stats, not just Maine specific, but in 2013 there were 2,910 fatal crashes that occurred on U.S. roadways involving distracted driving. Distracted driving
includes texting, talking on your phone, changing the radio station, putting on makeup. I mean,
Absolutely.
you adjusting the mirror. I mean, and you see and you hear things. I mean, people shave, not that I shave, but, people shaving while they're driving. I mean, they're in the cars, not so much here with long commutes, but, the people just get in your car and you're supposed to drive.
Yeah, you need to drive. You need to pay attention to your driving. And another stat that I have is 6 out of 10 teen crashes involve a distracted driver. And exactly what you said, some of the more common things that are distracting the drivers are people in the vehicle and conversations. I cannot tell you how many times I've pulled somebody over for speeding and they said, "Oh, I didn't even realize I was going that fast. We were talking." And it's like, well, I'm glad that you're communicating, but the reality of it is you need to be paying attention to what you're doing when you're driving a vehicle. And then, of course, you have the use of a cell phone, which is huge. And that doesn't, texting is a big one. But, talking is just as distracting in many instances as texting. So, that's a biggie. And
going through a drive-through and... eating, and if you drop something, your first inclination is, oh my gosh, let's reach down and get what it is.
Right.
And then you're not paying attention to the road.
Absolutely. And those of us who have years of experience driving, we have a little bit higher tolerance or ability to make up for those momentary lapses of paying attention. But the younger drivers with the little to no experience, boy, they just that's when they fail, and those momentary lapses of concentration from the roadway all too often end up in accidents, and whether it be a serious accident or just minor fender benders, and and that's something that people need to be smarter about, and they need to pay attention.
And I think the other thing too is we've got to realize that summer's here, and with it, more traffic on Route 1A and anywhere we're going. I mean, like I called you 15. I said, look, I'm going to be 15 minutes late because there was more traffic than I was expecting on Route 1A, and
Absolutely.
You've just got to allow that extra time now.
Yeah, we experienced it this weekend. I mean, there was a notable increase in traffic started last Wednesday and ran right straight through the weekend, and it's there's no question that after Memorial Day that summer has landed, and Monday through Wednesday it's kind of back to normal. Somewhat,
right?
Through till the 4th of July. After the 4th of July, at least in our area here, right. It's Monday through Sunday. It's wall to wall. Traffic is just brutal. So it's all absolutely all that more important that that your attention be on the road in front of you, and not distracted by cell phones, eating, conversation, radio, grooming, you know, putting on your lipstick, or, you know, fixing your hair, those types of things.
Both those things that I'm able to avoid.
And yeah, I don't have an issue with those either. But those are all the type of things that you know, put you at risk and distract you from what you know, the task at hand, which is to operate the motor vehicle that you're driving safely. So, but you know, and just to kind of close and wrap things up, I know I mentioned them, but you know, I really can't thank the partners that, you know, that we have enough, because as we all know, funding is always critical, and you know, police officers don't work for free. Very often. We do occasionally, and we put in a lot of hours that sometimes we're not compensated for. Right. But you know, ultimately, you know, we're here doing a job, and we need to get paid to do our job. And through funding like the Bureau of Highway Safety, and certainly the underage drinking funding that we've received through Healthy Acadia has been instrumental in allowing us to get officers in here working overtime, that are dedicated and, you know, passionate about enforcing, you know, and keeping the roads safe and keeping our young people safe. And without that, you know, without that funding, it would be, I wouldn't say that it wouldn't happen, because I firmly believe that we have people that are passionate and you know, and would do what they could, regardless of, you know, the funding. But certainly it makes it a lot easier to get people and get officers on board to come in and on their free, you know, their off time, which we don't have a lot of these days, especially, and put in the effort. So.
All right. That's Conversation with a Cop this week with Sergeant Mosier from the Ellsworth Police Department. Check out this video. Make sure you check out the conversation we had with Chief Coleman and all the other videos we have on the WDEA YouTube channel. Well, we're here at the Ellsworth Police Department, and Chris Popper joined by Detective Dottie Small, and as part of our Meet the Cop program here. And Dottie, you've been here now how long?
It'll be 34 years on August 10th.
Oh my! That's fantastic.
I just love coming to work every day. It's still the best job in the world.
Now, you know, you're like everywhere in Ellsworth, and I mean, I know the new Chief Coleman, and the past chiefs have certainly placed an emphasis on community policing, and you're out running. You're in plays now, and
my big acting debut.
Exactly, at the Grand.
It's nice to get out in the community. This is my community. I live here, raised my family here. My husband and I both have worked here forever, so it's part of our community, and I like being part of that community.
Yeah. What? So you are the detective.
Yes.
The sole detective.
I am the detective division until January, when we have a second position for a detective.
Oh, really?
That has been authorized. But for now, it's me. It's been me since March of 1999.
So, what's a detective do? I mean, you get to wear plain clothes.
I get to wear plain clothes. I get to handle all the serious felony investigations, the child abuse, the sexual assaults. I'm in charge of the evidence, bank robberies, things of that nature. Not that all the other officers here aren't good investigators. They can all investigate a case, but if they're working a midnight shift, they're not able to do follow-ups. Right. At 3 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to like it if you had a burglary and I come knock on your door and say, we need to talk about this.
Right.
So I follow up for all of the anything that happens at night.
And a lot of that's changed. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, not that Ellsworth is a hotbed of crime or anything like that.
However, it is, you know, we had never had a pharmacy robbery or a bank robbery, and we've had, you know, 2 pharmacy robberies, we've had a bank robbery. The types of crime are getting more and more serious all the time, and it's a full-time job.
And I mean, that's attributed to drugs?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that probably 90% of our crime, if you get back down to the core root of it, it's for people trying to get money for drugs, or people on drugs that don't really know what they're doing, making bad choices.
Right. I mean, it's an epidemic.
It is, and part of my job, I have the pleasure and the ability, the chief has allowed me to be part of drug court. the drug court treatment team,
Yeah.
which is actually helping addicts that have committed crimes, you know, give back to society and avoid jail and try to get off drugs and make something of themselves. And that's a real positive program. So it's
Right.
kind of nice to be able to work with people on a positive level as
Yeah.
well.
As one of the, as a detective, you're also, you run the Facebook.
I do the social media page. Fortunately, this Chief Coleman is very savvy at doing Facebook and Twitter and that sort of thing, and both sergeants are more than willing to help. So there's 4 of us now that can actually post things 24 hours a day.
That's a whole new realm of policing.
It is, and it's wonderful because, you know, one of the big things that I deal with on a daily basis is scams for the elderly and elderly crime. And being able to get that information out there, and I'm amazed at the number of seniors that are on Facebook and Twitter, and they're more internet savvy than they used to be.
Oh yeah.
You know, they have the better ability to get scammed via the internet because they're more trusting. However, I can reach that age group when I never could before.
You know, and that's the thing. I mean, the Ellsworth American comes out once a week. I mean, yes, you know, when things are of importance, news stations will cover it, radio stations will cover it. But like you said, those scams, when those happen, you can get those out instantly.
Right.
And that seems to be a problem these days, is people are trying to scam. And, you know, look, I mean, I had someone the other day call me from Microsoft to try and to help me with my computer. I'm like, how do you even know I have a computer at home?
Right. And it's amazing how many people get that call right after they have support from some computer company that they've been dealing with. And it's probably coincidence, but they fall for it because, well, gee, I did have trouble and I did call somebody and now Microsoft has called me. I'll give them access to my computer. Well, that's kind of scary.
Access, so they get passwords, they get credit card information. You know, I know that there's been scams going around lately about Emera coming and saying, you need to give us your credit card or else we're going to shut your power off.
Right, and they were hitting mainly businesses with that. And, you know, a business, that, especially a small business in the area, who are having trouble in the winter paying their bills and their light bill might be behind. So, oh no, they're going to cut us off, we're not going to be able to do our jobs. So they will, without thinking, send that money or give that credit card number.
Yeah.
So that's kind of dangerous. And, you know, scams only work on 2 basic premises, and that's greed and need. And, you know, you're never ever going to get something for nothing. If somebody has died and left you $800 zillion,
that Nigerian prince,
that you are the only living relative, when you know you have other relatives alive, that's the greed part of it. But the need, and I think why they are, a lot of our seniors retired at 62, at 65, and people are living longer and longer and longer. And so at 90, you don't have the income that you thought you were going to have, or your expenses are so much more, so you have that need. So if somebody says, I can help you, I can give you this grant, I can do this, I can do that, they are a little more willing to listen.
Right.
They're also much more trusting than the younger generation, who don't believe anybody's going to do anything for them. But, you know, they're polite.
Well, and I mean, I know that there's been issues with people from the supposedly the IRS.
Yes.
And that's been a common one right now.
It is, and I know that if I get a phone call and it says it's the IRS, you know how your stomach just automatically goes,
no doubt.
Right, because the IRS is a very powerful, and they have the power to stop your wages, to garnish things, to, you know, to seize your bank accounts.
Right.
So that's very scary for people. So they tend to listen to that. The thing that I find is that IRS scam, they don't like to talk to a person that answers the phone. They want to leave you a message and have you call them back. And I think it's because they have these pre-planned scripts when you call back. But if you answer the phone, it kind of throws them off.
If people if people get a call, what should they do? I mean, so they get a call, and you know, deep down, maybe the hair on the back of your neck stands up. What should you do?
Well, for starters, you don't have to talk to anybody on the phone. Hang up. You don't have to answer the phone every time it rings. If it's if it's a caller ID that's from out of state or something that you don't recognize, private calls, you don't have to answer. However, I tell people I do nothing over the phone. If you want to send me something in the mail to review, I'll make my decision then. I will not accept any more phone calls.
Right.
And if you get a message on your answering machine telling you to call back an out-of-state number immediately regarding your credit or your IRS, do not call that back. A lot of those are from out of the country, from the Bahamas, from Jamaica, and it costs you money to call that number back. So just, you know, be smart. Don't let them trick you into giving them information. The other big one that people have gotten scammed is the grandparent scam. Hi Graham, I'm in jail in Canada or I'm in jail in California and you have to wire me money right now. Please don't tell Mom. You know, if you've got a grandchild that is out of state or out of the country, you're probably going to know that. And their parents are going to know that. Just say, sorry, I'm going to call your parents. You might want to call them.
But you can understand how how someone falls. I mean, especially in the middle of the night, something like that.
2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
There's nothing worse than, as a parent or grandparent, having that phone ring between 11 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning.
We're all still of that mindset that somebody is in big trouble or there's been a death or something major has happened if the phone rings in the middle of the night. And you really don't think plain. And if somebody says, Grandma, and you've only got one grandchild, you know, is that you, Bob, or whatever? And, oh, yes, it is. I'm in trouble. I need your help.
Right.
Or I've been mugged and I'm in the hospital.
It's just a giant scam, but it's playing right on those heartstrings.
It is.
And so it's no wonder people fall for that.
Yes, and it's so sad because if you've got to go get a green dot money card or you've got to send it Western Union or a MoneyGram, then you really, I don't know of any legitimate business that says you have to do that. If you have one of those 3 things, it's a scam.
Right.
Step back and just say, no, I don't think so.
If they get something like that, they should call you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just call to check. I've had a lot of people do that. I've got this message on my answer machine, what should I do? Usually we have heard about them, and we can tell you whether or not it's, you know, something that's legitimate. Now, some people refuse to believe me.
Right.
They will go to the bank to get a bank check to send to people, and the banks around here are absolutely wonderful. They can't violate somebody's rights, but they say, I'm going to give you this, but please go sit down and talk to Dottie at the police department or talk to someone before you send it because we believe this is a scam. That's
the great thing about living in a small community is that we, you know, it's that village mentality, and everybody wants to look out for everybody else. We just don't want you to get scammed.
Exactly, exactly. We just want to keep you.
You've worked so hard for your money. I mean, that's the thing is we all recognize, you know, you work hard for your money, I work hard for my money. You as a retiree, you've worked very hard for your money.
And you have a limited income now.
Right.
And don't send it to somebody, and then how do you survive through the winter? Or how do you get your groceries for the next week or pay your light bill or whatever?
Policing has changed a lot.
Oh, it really has changed a lot in the 34 years since I started.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you see the future? Or it's hard to, I mean, knowing the changes that have happened.
Right, when we started out with typewriters and no computers at all, to the computer age, I think we're only going to see crime get more sophisticated. It's the thing that interests me now is, it used to be when you did a check kiting scheme, that you would open 2 bank accounts and then you'd write 1 check and take it to another bank and open an account and then withdraw the money. It was like a 2-week event.
Right.
Now if you're doing a check kiting scheme, which we're seeing more and more of, you're opening an account with a bad check, you're emptying the money out through the ATM that afternoon. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to follow, you know, the crimes, but they're becoming more and more sophisticated and they all involve computer use.
Right. And I mean, you know, then you also, with those computers, unfortunately, you have child porn, you have a lot of sexual crimes, bullying, cyber crime. I mean, it's just getting
It is, and you know, people are being victimized younger and younger with all of the different chat rooms. We hear all the time. I actually go into the 7th and 8th grade now and talk to them about people soliciting them to send pictures that would be inappropriate.
Oh, I mean, and that's the thing is that, you know, and I haven't seen this, but I know of it being with my relationship with the high school students. You hear them saying, "Oh my gosh, I sent this picture."
Right, but they said they delete it.
Right.
And, you know, once it's out there, that's
It's
the big thing.
never
it's
gone.
never gone. Once it's been sent, it is somewhere. And you know, I explained to one young man that I talked to recently, if you would not show this picture to your mother, then you probably hadn't ought to send it.
Right.
I mean, the new thing now is they talk to somebody on Snapchat, and that's supposed to be gone in 5 seconds. But I asked all the kids in the 8th grade, how many of you know how to do a screenshot? And every one of them knew how to do it on whatever device they're using. So they send a picture, and then they get, well, you need to send us money, or we're going to post this to your Facebook page.
Right.
And so then you're getting these poor kids that are scared to death to tell their parents. They're embarrassed because they've done photos that are inappropriate and embarrassing.
And illegal.
And illegal.
And I mean, it's crazy. I mean,
It is.
And you know, technology is good, but it's also can be really bad.
It can be. It can be. It's great. We're an instant society now. We want everything right then, but that can backfire on us. Sometimes it's so much better to just step back and take it slow before you make a decision on something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're right, because people will say, you know, especially if they're trying to scam you, you got to do it now. I need it now.
I need it now.
It has to be done right this minute, or there will be bad consequences.
And one woman that got scammed, they called her 3 times while she's in line.
Oh, they're
waiting
relentless.
to buy the MoneyGram. Why isn't that here yet? Your son is going to be put in the jail. You know, they're awful.
Yeah.
And they hound you and hound you and hound you. And then after you send money, they start again, we need more.
Right.
So it's really...
So, again, if you are receiving calls like this, what numbers should they call you at?
667-2133 or 667-2168. Just ask to speak to me. If I'm not here, leave me a voicemail. I'll call you back. But just don't jump into anything. Our dispatchers know what's a scam and what's not. Some people choose to talk to them and some don't.
Right.
But we will talk to you, we will work you through it and let you know if we believe that it's a scam.
And it's better to don't send it instantly.
Right.
Because once it's gone, it's gone.
Once it's gone, we're not going to Nigeria to get your money back because we probably wouldn't come back.
Right.
I mean, and a lot of these are out of the country because their laws are so different. They're not going to get arrested for a felony if they take $20,000 of your money. Whereas if your grandchild came into your house and stole it, that would be a felony.
Right.
But we would have no way of solving that crime.
It's terrible. I mean,
is.
you know, and our seniors and elderly and disabled, those who are most oftentimes the ones that are going to fall for this are, I mean, this is the kind that we need to protect.
It is,
know.
and that's what's most important. We just recently went to the Moore Community Center, and I was very excited to see there were almost 50 people there to talk about scams and how to protect themselves and elder abuse and things like that. And before, you know, we would have to go to a meal somewhere or something to talk to maybe 1 or 2 people. But that center has drawn seniors together, and they were sharing information that was just fabulous. So that's another good part of the community.
Yeah, let's talk about elder abuse just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
If you are elderly and you've given your power of attorney to your child or to a friend, I mean, you still have rights.
You still absolutely have rights, and you can revoke that power of attorney that you have given. However, many people, the biggest thing, they allow themselves to be abused because they're afraid of losing their independence. And if you don't do what this person tells you, everything they say bad that's going to happen, happens. If I'm not here to take care of you, you're going to have to go into a nursing home. And I think that's one of the biggest fears of any elderly person. If you don't give me this money, I'm not going to take you grocery shopping. You know, and so they will do that because A, they love their child, or their family member that's doing this, and B, they want to be in their own homes.
Right.
And it is the most underreported crime, simply because they're afraid they're going to end up in a nursing home or in a homeless shelter. And we will do our absolute best to hook people up with services that can help them. People can remain independent a lot longer than they think, especially if they're told every day that, you know,
Right.
you can't do this, you can't do that, or if someone's stealing their medication, that's another big thing now.
Yeah.
So, but it is very underreported, and we really would like to see people be able to live their lives healthy and happy without the fear of abuse, financial abuse, physical abuse.
So if you're watching this and you think that you may be a victim of this or know someone who may be, the best thing to do is to call Dottie.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, if you're not sure you want to pursue criminal charges, but you want to know your rights, call us about that. Just because you call and tell us something does not mean that it has to be a criminal investigation. They are the victim.
Right.
And we just want to help them, make them whole.
Okay. That's great advice.
Okay.
The phone number again.
667-2133 or 667-2168.
Okay. The camera's yours. Do you want to say anything? Without a question?
I got nothing.
Okay. There's a first. Okay. That's this week. Meet the Ellsworth Police Officer, Detective Dottie Small. Dottie, we'll have to do this again. I think you and I will have to do an ongoing, because I think there's so much information that we need to get out there.
There is. There are so many different things that, you know, from child abuse to sexual assaults to the burglaries we're seeing, the drug use.
Well, the number one thing is to lock your car, and I mean, you know, that,
Absolutely.
and lock
even in your garage, in your house.
and lock your homes at night. I mean, the old days of, you know, you just leave your house unlocked, you leave your cars unlocked.
Those are long gone. You just can't do it.
And it doesn't matter who you are. I remember when I was on the Bangor City Council, Randy Harriman, who was the chief of police, sheepishly came before us and told us that his car had been broken into because he had left it unlocked.
Right.
And, you know, sorry, Chief, but, you know, I mean, it's just, anyone can be can be a victim of that. And
Anyone
you
can.
Just got to make sure that you do your best. You lock your car, lock your house.
And criminals are going to do what's easiest. If they can just open a car door and take something, they're going to. If they have to smash out a window that might draw attention, they're probably not going to do that. So lock everything you own up. It's very important. We are not as safe as it used to be. And you have to not be as polite. If someone knocks on your door, especially if you're elderly, and says, I need to use your bathroom or I need to use your phone, you do not have to let them in.
Right.
You say, I will call the police, they will be here shortly.
Yeah.
But
and pick up the phone and
pick
call
up the phone.
911.
Call 911, absolutely.
Right. All right. That's this week's video. I hope you enjoyed this. Check out all the other videos we have on the WDEA YouTube channel.